Hello, this is Dr. David Pomeroy, your host of ADHD Focus, now a podcast and a video presentation. My guest today is Michelle Raz, who is a board-certified coach and founded a company that helps students with their executive function challenges and a unique, I think it's a unique blend of academic accountability and executive function coaching. And it's meant to help students and parents when the questions for parents are, how come my ninth grader can't get organized and everything's grades are a mess, and asking their children, why does it take you so long to get your homework done? And sometimes, what can I do to help? And Michelle is here to help us figure out those things.
Yes.
Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for letting me be here today. I'm excited to share with you our company that my partner Sonia and I founded and help anybody with students that are struggling with executive functioning challenges.
Great. And certainly that includes everybody with ADHD and folks with learning disabilities, disorders, learning challenges. And at least half people with ADHD have both. So coaching, what's the difference between coaching and therapy?
Yes, we get that question quite a bit. And the best way to start to describe that is looking at coaching, as far as academics. So if your student is struggling academically, despite they have efforts putting in a lot, and they're still struggling with that time management, organization, then study skills, the academic coaching is really suitable for that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as therapy goes, it's really more focused on addressing the emotional and psychological issues behind that. Now, that's not to say that we don't deal with emotional regulation, because we absolutely do.
Yeah.
But what we do is we want to know, maybe collaborate with what their physician psychiatrist has said, and bring those coping skills that maybe they have already learned with the therapist into the coaching setting for academics, because that can be a window into helping them regulate their emotions so that they may then have that focus to work that we do with the rest of the executive functioning skills.
Yeah, certainly so many kids have a lot of emotional tangle from growing up being asked, how come you can't do this? Just work harder. How come you aren't focusing? And going to tutoring where they're just doing endless math sheets of trying to learn how to add or multiply or whatever. And so kids get beaten down and start believing that they can't do it. And I certainly tell parents that as soon as you hear anything like, well, I'm bad, I'm just dumb, I'll never get there. Number one, you're in the right place to look at helping the ADHD, but number two, have someone help the child with their emotions, and so they aren't shaming themselves.
Yes, a lot of clients come in with that shaming and feeling less than. They lack that confidence. And so through our coaching program, we really provide the framework and structure to help become confident and show them where their successes are naturally. They come in with some strong skills, and then have support around those challenges through our planning, the organizing, time management. We start with goal setting. We look at a focus plan that is individual and customized for each one of our students. Coming in, as you know, they come in with a variety of different executive functioning challenges. Some may be really good in time management, but they have no motivation. They may be organized but they don't know how to prioritize. And
That's certainly a big one of, okay, I've got all these assignments and I've got my different folders, whatever, but what do I do first? Putting that into okay, here's a planner, and when is this assignment due? Gee, that would be a better one to get started on, even though you really like this other subject and you aren't really hot on the teacher on the one that's due first. There's those things. I think maybe that's one of the more important things people can learn in middle school and high school. Sometimes you just have to do it. May not like it. I hope you have to jump through.
I say to students, I heard this a while back, say, I really don't like this. And sometimes we'll say, well, okay, we understand you don't like it, but can you do it not liking it? And oftentimes that's dealing with our clients, right? With these students that are struggling and they really just don't have the interest, in which we know they're challenged with the focus if they're not interested. And we recognize that, we acknowledge that. We know there's a lot of resistance around there. They're probably working with some of those emotional issues with their therapist that weaken them those skills in, and then show them the pathway to do it, and do it with resources, with strategies, and then with baby steps. And this is where we come in more on the boots on the ground, I like to say, because we're in the trenches with them. We're bridging that academic life and home life, and we're the
make it happen
for that.
Something just occurred to me in terms of, I see some, certainly kids in high school, even middle school, where it's evident that this kid is really, really intelligent. So much that the first two math problems, okay, I got that figured out, and there's 20 to do. So they're bored because they aren't challenged enough. And so they lose motivation. Why bother? I know all this stuff. So how would you help someone in that situation? I mean, would you help parents try to figure out how else they could work with school to get some more challenge things, or come up with ideas that they could do outside of school maybe? That's always a tough one for me to know how to help somebody.
That's an interesting question, because I've actually seen two things happen in that, what you're saying. And this is a personal story with my own daughter, where she wasn't necessarily gifted in math. She would have 20 problems, understand the concept, and go down and maybe do 2 or 3. And hers wasn't just distraction from boredom. It was strictly focusing distraction from her ADHD. And so we brainstorm with students, and I know at that time I did with my daughter, to come up with a technique to get her to refocus, allow her to be distracted, and then have a tool for her to come back to focus on the exam. And it had to do with giving her a psychological break by looking at the clock. And that was just kind of her trigger, is to give herself 30 seconds. And they still, in her school, had the second hands on there to do that. And then have a paper, over her math problem where she would had stopped and went going. And this is, through middle school and into high school. It proved to be helpful for her to be able to take those short, frequent breaks and then be able to redirect. The student that you're talking about, I've seen that as well. And really, this is, again, another brainstorm and individualized problem solving, where I've seen that student that gets bored, that really has that high achieving math student that really understand the concept. Do they really need 40 repetitive problems? Can an accommodation with the parent, not the parent, the teacher, or we're talking like high school teachers, where they're going to have more accommodations. And I've seen them work with the student to say, well, then, okay, every other one type, if you're on a IEP plan, you can certainly modify those expectations. And for somebody that's in a college atmosphere, it's a little different. And, we work with students that are high school and college as our main clientele. And in the college atmosphere, what they do there, it's a little looser because most of the time you're not required to do the homework. They give you the assignment and you should know it for the exam. And so you'll see those students in high school that knew it, didn't do the homework. So they were not getting the grades, living up to their potential because of the missing homework, do just fine in the college setting. Because they knew it. There's a lot of students you'll see do that. And so those are some of the things you can do as far as like, what do you do with that student in the high school where there's no accommodations? They're bored. They don't want to do it. That's the difficult one, right?
Yeah.
That's one where you might look at reasoning through why you're good at this. Why do you need to do this? What's the end goal? What do you need to do, and look beyond the moment so that you can get past that.
So they get some of that. And I have helped kids get the accommodation of being able to do every other one or, do 5. And is what the teacher can see is when they do that, the kid's still getting a 95 on the exam. So it's not like they're missing out on any. Trying to get an accommodation saying, no, they don't have to do homework if they're getting 95s on all their exams. Teachers don't go for that one. And it
would be nice to have some flexibility around that, right?
Yeah.
And that would be a different
again,
model.
In college, that's not as much an issue. Because as long as you can do it and put it together, then that works. So getting back to the coaching and kind of the differences on things, how is what you do as far as the academic coaching part, how's that different than tutoring?
Okay. Yeah, this is one of my favorite comparisons, and people will call it academic tutoring. And we're not tutors. And this is the best example, while both are super valuable in the educational, services we provide, the difference serve different purposes. So what you can think of as this is that the academic coach is, or coaching process is like navigational system in a car, the GPS.
Okay.
So it's going to get you there, while the tutoring would be more like you're broken down on the side of the road on your car and you've got a skilled mechanic there fixing the wheel. So that the GPS comparison can be related to the coach so that you are helping that student navigate, right, their educational journey.
Got it.
Providing that direction, where you want to go, those goals, then the structure, the planning, the accountability and whatnot, and giving them strategies to get to that academic success.
The details and that's certainly where I think a lot of people with ADD, whether they're in school or anywhere along their career path, have an idea of all the different steps that would be helpful to do. And particular entrepreneurs may come up with, okay, we can do this, but then how to put those into operation, how to get that to actually happen. Now,
yes,
we set these CEO, goals. They can hire someone who knows how to do it and they say, great, go do it. But in high school, you don't have a separate CEO or an admin to help you with those things.
Yeah, so a coach can act like, that person that gives them that direction. It's really more of a holistic approach, right? You're helping them address the skills you need to be able to do those things: organization, time management, goal setting, and being able to advocate for themselves, whether they're in high school or college. That approach right there is what the academic coach focuses on. Whereas the tutor, or like skilled mechanic, so to speak, would be one that would come in and specifically fix an issue, understanding in a particular class that they're taking. They want that immediate academic gap that's in the knowledge they're taking, and help them close that gap. They're usually somebody that's going to be an expertise in a subject. And
Okay.
so that is very targeted in that particular topic. Now, that being said, our coaches do come in and, like, say somebody, they've got a rubric, and you can align that rubric with what they've done, with the expectation, and you can guide them in that, but they're not going in and
Not teaching
actually.
the subject
Yes,
itself.
exactly.
So,
So
then
their coach is the guide, right?
Mhm.
Guide the knowledge, so that they can be independent and, in the end, empowered, so that they can navigate any academically situation.
They can
their
go out
own.
to different
Right.
different areas. So
Yeah.
then this gets to, I think, one of the other differences with and tutoring, and that is, okay, the student is going along with the GPS, but like with the GPS, you have to check where you're going every once in a while. And I don't entirely trust this random voice telling me, turn left, turn right. I want to look at a map and see where I'm supposed to be going, which I can't do when I'm driving. So the accountability part is the other important part.
Mhm.
How does that work?
Yeah.
There's, whether it's regular weekly meetings or whatever, how does it work?
Right.
In all the different aspects on that.
So the accountability is really an important piece. In fact, we just developed a huge accountability workshop course in this, and we look at accountability. Our logo is achievement through accountability, and accountability in a very positive way. This is what the students will come in and say, well, I really need to be accountable because I say I'm going to do something, but I don't do it. So I need to work on my accountability. They know the language. It's funny, or follow through, they might say as well. And so that is what you say is right. We can't always rely on this person over here, right? This guide saying, oh, go left, go right, do this and do that. And so through routines, we are establishing this independence. And then the accountability is where we help them follow through with the planning, the accountability, the check-ins. So what we do is that we will have a specific focus plan goal for that student. And then each session, they're working with a coach to identify a short-term goal, academically related, usually looking at a syllabus or a planner. And then through that, they make action plans. And through those action plans, then the coach says to them, gives them choice and empowerment of how they want to be held accountable. And the student is giving feedback for that. And then the coach, we have a system for them to check in with them throughout the week. So it is a very hands-on process that is a way for them over time to then have these routines and strategies in place. And so the accountability is really what seals the deal. That's making sure that they're doing it. And what we see is that when they sign up and they buy into the process of what they're signing up for, is that once they follow our steps, very structured steps, and they start to see a little bit of success, it becomes more and more and more, so that they're starting to
get
see
motivation from the success. Yeah.
Yes. And you're seeing it in different areas of their lives, and not just in academics. All of a sudden they're wanting to help out around the house. They're, if they're in college, they're wanting to navigate their own, financials, their medicals, their doctors. And it's a way to really become independent and have that confidence. So the accountability is an important piece for them to develop that confidence, so that they can then own it and self-advocate for themselves and have a structure in place of what they need to do.
Yeah. So a couple of things occur to me in terms of the accountability. It sounds like there's like a regular weekly session, for instance. And that's on Zoom, right? Or some face-to-face kind of thing.
Yeah, we have a private HIPAA compliant video platform. So it's our own in-house, where everything in the session is there, the notes, action plans. Then our coaches meet twice a week. We have different programs. And so we have twice a week is the standard that developed years ago, just because, our attention spans are short with the clients that we work with. And so we like consistency. So we split it up in twice a week. And then in between, we have through our messaging system, ways of holding them accountable through different techniques that we have just used. So they're in contact. Some of our clients, I would say it could be 5 days a week, but the actual live coaching sessions are twice or 4 days a week. We have like a higher level of somebody's gotten themselves in academic probation and college student, and they're in a crisis mode. We have an elevated plan for those students, and some of our helpers as well just need that constant. And then we have a maintenance plan for ones that kind of graduate out that want that over time, but that comes later on after they've been through the regular showing up success.
So then another thing stemming from what you'd mentioned about a student in college gets more confident about, for instance, handling their finances. Do your coaches help specifically with developing kind of financial skills as far as, okay, a bank account and savings, and put some savings in there if they have a job, or is that part of what you do, or is it just limited to the academics?
That's a really great question. So our primary focus is on academics, but that being said, we'll have students that maybe are taking a break for a semester. Maybe they did fail out the semester before, or in the summertime, they're not taking classes, but want to focus on life skills, personal goals. And so that is absolutely something that in our framework, with our process of identifying what their goal is, what they want to do. And it's the same process of holding them accountable to what they want to do, and the knowledge, and finding the resources themselves, and the coach guiding them along that process.
Okay. So yeah, certainly the accountability it's important in anything, particularly with ADD, since it's one thing to set out, okay, I'm going to have this and this done, and you've got your goals and your action plan, and if you're written down on a calendar or whatever. And if we're just have those in our own calendar and we don't have anybody checking on us, it's, oh yeah, well, I'll get to that tomorrow. And it's so easy to blow by those. But even if it's something as simple as asking a non-judgmental friend to just, saying, I'm going to have this done by Wednesday at 8:00. And if that person doesn't hear from you, they just ping you and say, hey, how's that going? There's your
Do
reminder.
it yourself. Accountability is really great. And I've had people that ask me that, and I say, absolutely, if you can find an accountability partner, you can definitely do this. And some people are disciplined to do that, and it works beautifully. What I find is, what I say is I pay it forward. When I was, years ago looking for help for my own daughter, this is the reason why I started this company with my partner. She and I both had, children that needed help. I hired a coach because I didn't want that responsibility, and I couldn't. I tried. This is from a parent role, and you try, but you get distracted by life. Things happen, or something.
At some point, kids figure, well, of course you're going to tell me that, Mom, but you don't know what you're talking about. But I hear it from an adult who is also interested in them, but they don't have that parent role.
Exactly.
Yeah, they'll listen to that person. By the time your children, my children certainly, by the time they were in their 20s, okay, I guess Dad learned a lot in the past 10 years.
You make a good point. So there's two factors there. You've got the parent factor of, okay, we can do this and I can hold them accountable. And you start off with good intention, but life happens. You get distracted. There's that tension, that parent tension, happens. And then on the student side, it's the natural progression as they become teenagers and whatnot. Start to tune out the parent and start to have that autonomy. And so you have somebody else that comes in that says the same thing the parent says, but just in a different way. There's not the triggers.
Sure.
Success. And this is, I'd say to parents, years ago when I was doing a lot of this, I mean, coached hundreds of students, and I would say, I was there. I'm paying this forward because I did this with my own daughter, went through in the trenches, and I know what you're experiencing, and it's nothing magical. It's just, it's a different person, a different voice. And the other thing is we're consistent. When you're paying for something and we have set scheduled times and we have that accountability for the student to show up, there's a whole piece on that about, sure it's equitable for everybody. And so, this is our company. And so we're following through. It is much more successful. There's been a few parents out there that could do it on their own.
But it's rare.
Yeah.
The other thing I can see it does is help the parent realize it's not your fault that your child isn't succeeding. It's not up to you to have all the answers.
It's
doesn't
not
mean that you're a bad parent.
It's not bad parenting, and you're right, absolutely. And when we get a student that has had high conflict with the parent, and we're able to develop a coaching relationship with that student, with parent as a collaborator, like we do a process of, what would the parent like to see in the focus plan? And then we ask the student, their opinion, and we pull this together for the actual plan goals. And when we do that, it's a process that we see that the parents are relieved, and the students know what the parents expect. And so it's really a collaboration, and we're there to support each other and help, because every student that we encounter has different levels of executive functioning challenges.
Sure. Yeah. So is there a structure in terms of checking in with the parent every once in a while, or asking, gee, what do you see? How do you see the progress in every third week or something like that?
Great question. So we provide a lot of collaboration. We're transparent with the student and with the parent, and the parent can anytime see if they've signed in. I'd say even the college students, 90% of them, have access to our stuff. And so, yes, they have action plans that are shared with them. And then once a month, the student has a report that goes, that they do a self-report, and then we have one for the parent that goes out that talks towards their executive functioning challenge and where they're with each one, so that they get an idea of the progress. And I would say it's a limited, the relationships between the coach and the client, the student. But we completely understand from being former parents that we want the oversight. We want to be able to involve minimally, to see what's going on, and have a communication path. If there's something that's going on emotionally, all of a sudden, maybe there was something that happened with the therapist, and it comes down to the parent, and the parent says, I think you should be aware of this. We have that kind of a line of communication back and forth.
Great.
But we are focused, primarily, of course, on this.
Sure. But parents, I'm sure, figure, hey, I'm paying for it. I want to make sure I see the results. And
we really like the parent to be the collaborator. I always say there's three types of parents, right? We have the ones that are hovering, that are really overly involved, and we have to kindly say, let us do your work here. You can, be informed and whatnot. And we do this in the beginning of the process. Then we have the second kind of parent that's completely not engaged. They have their own messaging system. Maybe they haven't even opened it once. We have some communication coming out. And then we have the third parent that is there in a healthy manner to collaborate with the coach, to let students be independent, because that is our goal, is to help that student be independent. And they are doing that dance with the coach and the student, and watching, overview.
Being able to see, but from a kind of a one step back, watching it happen, and not trying to direct.
And that's our goal. Our goal is to help the unengaged or disengaged parents be aware, and then we all want to have the ones that have developed a pattern of being overly involved feel comfortable and safe to take a step back. And
that they can. And I'm sure some parents are relieved that the burden of trying to do this, okay, I don't have to have all the answers. That
Yeah.
I can trust that these people know what they're doing. They obviously have a good structure. And I think any coach in any capacity, you want to know how it's going to work before you start. It's kind of what's the flow chart? What are the steps that I'm going to see?
And we do involve the parents on that. And in the end, what the feedback that we get from our parents is, by and large, what everyone says is that we can have a relationship now because I'm not the one pulling, at them to do the work and have to micromanage them. And they are so thankful, in the end.
And I think parents, yes, they have their child's interest at heart and they're doing everything they can and figure, well, if I'm typing your paper while you're telling me what you want, which essentially is using a dictation program, except mom's typing it instead of the program, because some kids, their learning challenge is they can do great organizing it in their head and explaining it, but getting it down on paper is just really, really tough. And that's where that blend comes in. So looking, if parents are looking around, trying to figure out, okay, it looks like academic coaching, I've heard of that academic coaching. How do I know whether these coaches are any good? How does the parent look at the qualifications of a coach?
Yeah. Well, I know certainly in our company with my 15 plus years experience at this point, I have really dialed out how our program works, and we've enhanced it as a company as well. And so, for instance, for our coaches, they all have education psychology backgrounds, and then they follow our format, the way that we have now structured that. In general, in coaching, what you're looking for is, personally, my background was ICF, and I became board certified after many years, and then I took it and kind of made my own out of it. But the hallmark, is still today, anyone that's trained with the ICF, there is a standard of training in there. And nowadays, there wasn't much when I started. Actually, I'm not even sure if ICF had it in there, but ADHD specialty training is always great to have as well. But
sure,
it's, look at their experience, look at their specialization, and their experience in working with this particular population. If they're generalist, I'm not sure that that's going to be as valuable as somebody who's specialized in it.
Yeah, if it's just someone and an executive function coach, that's great. But if they don't have that understanding of the academic process, then it's putting that kind of context together. Just to back up for 1 second, the ICF is the International Coaching Federation. Is that it?
Yes. Sorry, I assume everybody knows that. Right. And just a couple other things. So what else you can look for is client testimonials and some references. Word of mouth, and looking at their approach. My approach, I say it's a positive psychology approach. Everything we do is a positive twist on it. We assume that they have the answers within them. We assume that they're capable of succeeding with the right strategies and tools in place. So really looking at that coach approach. And then the other thing is, compatibility and rapport. Sometimes, if they're really heavy on the emotional regulation, having somebody that is that cheerleader, I've seen that work for students. So that's an important piece too. We tend to really want our coaches to follow a real systematic structure, and we have a focus on emotional regulations and support, but we really, work on this accountability piece as well.
And I can see that the structure, that is, you want a fairly uniform approach in terms of the steps. Sure, it's going to be tailored to a student as far as their plan and the way the coach works with a given student, maybe a little different than the way they help another student. But it's still within the structure that's there. So a basic structure is helpful. Then how do you, or how does anyone figure, here's a coach who's had training with the ICF and they've looked at specific ADHD issues and training. How do you pick which coach fits which student?
Yeah, well, we, when our coaches come in, they do a profile and they have their resumes and whatnot. And so again, like I was saying earlier, you look at their expertise, you look at their background. Even within our company, we do that. And then the students that come in, we have a process of them giving us information so that we understand what their needs are as a student, what their goals are, what their focus is based off their parents, off of them, and then looking at specific challenges that they are wanting solved, help with. So with that, we, of course, we have to look in their time zones and whatnot. We do a personality match. And so with that, then we give them a choice of the different coaches. And at that point, then they pick them, through the information that we give them, and then they go on to develop a relationship with that particular coach. And we do what we call jump start.
Someone has a choice of, there are these 2 or 3 people that may fit what you're looking for.
Yeah, we try to really customize it and individualize it based off of the background. And then ultimately, though, it's up to them to make that choice. And then we do an initial jump start where we allow them to have that interact with that coach.
So the assessing what the student needs involves asking that student, I'm sure, how are you doing, where the problems are, I guess, on a global nature. Yeah, I really have trouble writing essays. Math, no problem. I got that. But then how do you drill down from I'm having problem writing essays to what are the specific executive function issues going on, so that you know where to help with that?
So we do have a quiz. If you go to our website right now, Thrivister.com, there's a quiz that you can take and you can identify where your weaknesses are on that. That's one way, but most have met with a psychologist, psychiatrist, and they have an IEP of 504. They know what those are. And so it's another way where we can get that. And then just an informal inventory of what they want to work on. All of our students are going to have the same framework of a planner, right? Action plans, and the way we hold them accountable for them. In grades, we had that. Everyone has that. We're seeing their grades. And the difference is going to be specifically in the different subjects, like you said. They might have an interest in one and not another, and so we have an enrollment director who actually was a behavioral therapist. And so, like I said, all of our coaches come from an educational psychology background. So we've got power. We know what we're dealing with. And we have ways to identify what those needs are, and then also look at the strengths of the coaches that we have that have a specialty in that area, or just a general interest in it, a lot of experience. We have several of our coaches with special ed backgrounds. We have some that are, graduate level of that as well. So that we really rely on the expertise of that process to identify.
So in terms of, I'm just thinking of kind of to get a rough idea, which I know may be tough to quantify, what are the predominant executive function challenges that you see people have in terms of whether it's the organization of the pieces or planning out. I have all the pieces. How do I know which one to do first? Or follow through.
On any given day.
Yeah, I'm sure it's, I guess, over a number of students that are in your experience. Are there ones that, or is it all of them?
It's so individualized. It's just, I'm laughing here because they all need help at certain times of the year with motivation, like all students do, but these students really do. So like right now, this time of year, motivation is a big issue. Time management is something that, again, they all need help with. And it's really individualized. And a common thing I think with all of them is that lack of self-confidence. And that comes with developing these strategies and routines and the accountability around that to help that self-confidence. So whether it is organization, motivation, time management, we're at different times, focusing on those different areas to help that self-confidence, to empower them so that they have the tools to be able to feel that confidence, that when it's hard, they know what they do. They have some techniques and strategies to do that.
You'd mentioned, I think when we first started talking about baby steps, which I think so many people look at, oh, I've got this big goal. There was a great meme I saw of one person who had two people climbing ladders. One of them had steps that were huge, and they were trying to reach that first step. And the other one had about 20 steps per one of the other one. And so they could get to each little one. So they were going to be able to get to their goal. The other person's just jumping up and down, trying to get to that first step. So it's, yes, I want to be able to get an A. And okay, but let's work on the things that are going to get you to, you can be able to get a B minus.
Yes, right. So, okay, you just two things came to my mind when you said that. One is that, yes, we have so many students that come in that they're currently at an F and they're going to still get an A in that class. And, that's that big stair step. And then other ones that come in with an F and say, I just want to pass this class. And so we talk about realistic expectations. And whether it's, we're talking about a goal or we're chunking down assignments, we need to be realistic and take those steps that are small and consistent over time. And if you allow that to happen and be realistic about that, you will reach your goals. So yes, small steps.
The little bits. There's a book called Atomic Habits, and it's not how much can you blow something up, but getting down to atoms. Everything is made up of atoms. And if you take a little tiny step of rearranging one atom, and then, then you can put these two rearranged ones into something. So you build a little habit and then build on that, and then stack the habits, and you end up with a change, even though you did only a 1% change on a given day.
Over time. That's so true. And this is what I see. A lot of our students are coming in and they're spiraling down. And, unfortunately, we get those. Unless parents out there, if you're listening to this, if you're thinking about coaching, start it at the beginning of the semester. Don't wait until they're failing.
Yes.
We're there. We're good at that. I mean, we do a lot of crisis ones and we turn them around, and then the kid goes, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do that again. And so they come and they sign up, for life coaching, they're like a lighter coaching of the summer, and then they go into the academic year. But that being said, that we definitely do. We take those students. Some of my favorite ones have come in and they're just spiraling down, and the parents are going to not only lose financially, they're worried the mental health of their student, and the student's feeling like a failure. They're embarrassed. They have the shame, and then they find coaching. And so we're down here at the bottom. And so we start, I will say baby steps, but quickly. And those kind of crisis situations, we're like, okay, let's make a plan. Let's dig in. We roll up our sleeves as a coach and we start to dig them out, show them the way, the path. And pretty soon they're starting to spiral up. And if we can get them through a semester, depending on the crisis, right? We generally can, we'll help them, navigate the professors or the teachers and seeing what kind of support that they can get with the coaching support on top of that. And I have seen countless stories where they were at rock bottom. And not only do they succeed, but they go on to, if they're graduating high school and they're at risk, they go to college. I've had them go beyond college, go to grad school, come back to me for career coaching later in life. And it's just a beautiful story, but they came at a rock bottom. And it was the building blocks that came up. And I do this around them because they start to go up instead of spiraling down.
Yes,
and
I think it's
a critical point of coaching when that happens.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people, say with depression, okay, you've had one thing or another come up and they get further down, then you can't do something. So you get down on yourself that you didn't do it. And there are, I think, almost a hierarchy of how one can intervene depending on how far down the spiral is. And I see parents, kids come in and, well, he's flunking, it's early November, and he probably has ADD, so can we start some medicine so we can pass finals in mid-December? No. It doesn't work.
Behaviors that need to change with the medication is going to allow them to slow down enough to start to do the coaching we're doing. Yes, it's all together. We work together.
Yes. And I think of working with any person challenged with ADHD, there's a tripod of things that are going to help. And medication is one. You can certainly focus better and keep your attention to get through something. But you also need strategies to help you. And that's where coaching can help you, because we aren't born knowing those. And as you get older, then all of a sudden those turn on. Nope, doesn't work that way. But then the other part is the foundation of, you have to be getting good sleep. You have to be not skipping meals, or, no, I don't like breakfast, so you don't eat breakfast. Well, before lunch, your brain's out of gas.
That holistic
some of those basics. And that's where it does take all of those things at once. So there's not any one single answer. It's everything working together.
Yeah, I really enjoy life coaching in the summertime with college students, or just life coaching in general, as a complement, because we get to address those other health issues. What else do you need? Do you need to look at your diet? Do we need to look at exercise? Do we need to look at your social interactions, your medications, and are you going to therapy? When's the last time you went to go talk to your doctor? Those are things that come up. And sometimes they're like, well, it's been 3 months. And it's like, okay, well, I'm, emotionally, I'm starting to see these old habits come in. What do you think about making an appointment? And
if someone's already on medication, they need to have one every 3 months, because I can't write them any more medicine after 3 months. 90 days is the most I can. Medication I can write is up to 90 days from your last appointment. So there's kind of a built-in accountability, if you will. They
lost their medication. I've seen that before. It's like, well, I just went to the doctor and I lost it, and now I can't find it, and it's legitimate in those instances, or they don't take it. That can be a life coaching thing. Or did you remember to take your medication?
And that's where, do you have a routine so that it's right there? And some people say, the pill is on the kitchen counter. Well, if you were going real fast and you really didn't have time to have breakfast, so you just kind of blew through the kitchen, maybe you didn't get to that. What about having it where you wash your face in the morning? So it's right in front of you. And that's where the little habits Because,
Yes.
yeah, it's, and
We address
particularly,
that in coaching as well, like timers, or like reminders on phone calendars, things like that. Yeah.
yeah, I just thought of something as we were talking, and you mentioned your daughter and having a clock that had a second hand, that in so many testing situations, particularly many schools may have a digital clock on the wall. Great, you can tell what time it is, but if you want to figure out how much time is left in a test, you have to do some math. And okay, it's 10:10, great, 10. And the test is over at 11. Oh, it's 10:50. Oh yeah, it's 10. There's a big difference on those. So
Yeah.
I'm just thinking an accommodation ought to be have an analog clock somewhere that person can see.
And
So that
that's
elapsed time
point.
is a bigger visual.
That's a good point. I don't know, but I have an Apple watch, and I use the old school face on mine. I like it still.
Yeah,
help.
I've got a watch that has just basics. That's all I need, and it's a lot easier for me to look at the pattern. I know, okay, it's 20 after. No, it's 20 of. Whereas if I'm looking at a set of numbers, it slows me down.
Yeah, not good for somebody with time blindness, right?
Exactly. So you get that visual, which I think for those of us with ADD makes a big difference. So let's see, we've covered the fact that coaching is different than therapy. People may need both. And a word on that, maybe a 9-year-old, they're beaten down. They need some help with figuring things out in terms of a coaching kind of thing, which I realize isn't your specific area of emphasis. But play therapy is an approach with younger kids. Talk therapy, going in and talking with someone, that isn't going to work, but something where they can see it, and that's an approach as far as therapy. So coaching, therapy, maybe people need both. Certainly if they're having problems in school, I think executive function things are a big part of it. The organization, the planning, the time management, those are, I think, the big three. And then they all fit together. And then coaching isn't tutoring. Coaching's the GPS system. And having a good coach with a lot of good training and background, and I think not just education, but also psychology, definitely makes a difference. And then a good assessment of the needs of the student, not just, oh, okay, you're having trouble in history. Well, we'll help you with this, that, and here's a clock system, and here's a planner you can use. It's a lot more detailed as far as assessing each student's needs, and then going from there with the accountability piece. And I can't stress enough, certainly what I see is that with so many people, it's that accountability, the piece that makes the difference. One of the foremost thinkers and people in the field of ADHD is Russell Barkley, and he has boiled ADHD and executive functions down to a easy sentence. It's not an issue of knowing what to do. It's of doing what you know. We, with ADHD, can come up with this and this and this and this is what I need to do, and put the steps but getting it done, the follow through, and actually completing it, that's where the accountability is a huge part of it.
Yes.
Well, Michelle, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show and talk with you about how coaching works and how it's different than other approaches to helping people with ADD.
Thank you so much. And it's really a pleasure to be able to share with Thrivister, what we're doing, and we really, really walk our talk, and achievement through accountability, and it works.
Yes, I think it works in any kind of coaching situation. Want to make sure that there are all of those components in it.
Yes.
So folks, thank you so much for tuning us in on the podcast ADHD Focus. You can find our videos on YouTube, also coming soon on Roku and Fire Stick. And until I heard those words 2 months ago, I had no idea what they are, and I'm getting kind of a handle on what they are. But if you're using those, great. I'm glad you've got it figured out. So take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.